Part 52. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 512. Chapter 512, Sacrifice 01. It's ringing. It's so noisy. Why are we back? Let's go and watch them fight. In the end, the man will kneel down and beg his wife for forgiveness. Hua wanted to get up, but she hadn't seen the end yet. Shiu's brows twitched. How many times have you seen it? He felt a little blocked and a little annoyed. Not a few times, but the man always beat her with a stick. She was so young that I didn't know if it hurt or not. Well, a drunk woman really dares to say anything. Mei Shui turned on the speakerphone, and she and Hians heard all the conversations there. But I didn't think much about it. Shiu didn't want to pay attention to her and looked at his phone. It was a call from his mother. Hand in hand, he turned around and walked into the kitchen. Don't forget to close the door. Happy New Year, Mom, Shiu hurriedly said into the phone. Happy New Year to you too. How are you doing there? Are you still used to the food? Do you have enough money? Is it cold? My Xiu, like any other mother, is very concerned about her son who is away from home. Mom, I'm fine, how about you? Are you okay? Is your wife in good health? Are Xiaopeng and the others obedient? By the way, Xiaopeng is engaged, how about it? Does the little girl's mother like it? Mother and son have been separated for half a year, but they are not strangers to each other at all, but are closer to each other. Okay, everything is fine. The little girl is also very nice. She is very cute and sensible, don't worry. The mother and son chatted for a long time. At this time, a discordant voice came over. Shiu, I'm going to take a shower. Hua felt uncomfortable and wanted to take a shower, but as soon as she opened her eyes, she couldn't. I saw Shiu. So I looked for someone everywhere. As soon as I opened the kitchen door, I saw him answering the phone. I shouted to him without thinking. After shouting, he ran away. Shiu was left in a mess. Xiao, who is that girl? Is she your girlfriend? Mei Shui asked curiously. Shiu will not hide anything about his family. Mom, don't think too much. She is Uncle Hua's daughter. Hua, I didn't know until the day I sent you back that she was in our school. Xiao told his parents about their meeting. Mei Shui and Hians looked at each other and became happy. It seems that the marriages of my sons have started very early. Haha, awesome, each of them has found a wife for himself. It seems that it is only a matter of time before they get married. Then you have to take good care of her. A girl can be easily hurt outside. Mei Shui may have been influenced by Grandma He, and her lover's own son is dating someone. Well, I know, Mom. This phone call lasted for almost half an hour. After hanging up, Shiu found that he was sweating all over. I don't know what he is nervous about. Fortunately his parents didn't say anything, otherwise he really wouldn't know what to do. Looking at the hung-up phone, Xiao smiled. Since you ran in by yourself, then I can't stand you when I leave. His thoughts were very clear to him, and he was attracted to her. Mei Shui and Hians didn't know what Xiao was thinking, but they were still very happy that their son could find someone to take over on his own. Xiaoxiu, don't laugh. I thought you were marrying your daughter. You can't wait. Hians was really depressed by her. You don't understand how tiring it is to raise a son. Now that they have found someone to take over, of course we as parents have to let go as soon as possible. She is a cold-hearted person. If it weren't for her son, she wouldn't be interested. You, don't let them know what you think. He mourned for his sons, who were disliked by his own mother. How could Mei Shui not understand what he meant? Now that the three of them have people they want to stay with in the future, I plan to take my grandma to travel around the world after Xiaopeng and the others take the college entrance examination. This world is so beautiful, she must take her grandma to see around. Are you planning to leave me too? Hian saw the disgust for himself in her eyes. I'm not afraid that you won't be able to let go of your sons. The two of them played in the town for a while and then flew into the mountains. Life in Meow Village is very simple, and the atmosphere during the new year is better than outside. After the spring festival, it's the first month of the year. Meow Village has its own customs in the first month, and Mei Shui and Hians have a great time playing in the village. But when I heard them saying that they were going to worship the gods, I was still a little confused. Village chief, what kind of are you worshipping here? They have been here for so long, but they haven't seen any house offering anything to worship their ancestors. I have to say that they overlook something. Hearing their questions, the village chief tightened the teacup in his hand, but he did not hide it. They were now half Meow family members. It is a rule that has been passed down from our ancestors, but no one has seen the true face of that god, nor is it the various immortals and Buddhas that have been passed down in the world. The village chief told them what he knew. Of course, there were some things he chose not to say because they were kept secret. If you are interested, you can go and have a look, but don't run around when you get there. At this point, the village chief stopped. He said helplessly, of course, with your level of cultivation, it's okay to run away. The divine object over there doesn't hurt people, but it will warn people who intrude into its territory. The Meow people do not build ancestral temples. They mainly worship mountain gods. Each Meow people have their own gods, and each worships something different. The two of them looked at each other and immediately thought of the valley Xiaopeng mentioned. They had never been there for so long. But that valley where Xiaopeng accidentally broke into last time, Mei Shui was straightforward and asked directly what came to mind. The village chief nodded, that's right there, but Xiaopeng's kid is lucky and didn't go to the east, otherwise he might not be able to get out of the Worm Valley. The village chief introduced them to the Bug Valley. There were no scary beasts in the Bug Valley. There were only some snakes, insects, rats, and ants, but these things made even the large beasts afraid to approach. You can imagine how scary they are. As the old saying goes, more ants kill an elephant. Sometimes large size is not necessarily a good thing. Insect Valley is divided into 4 directions, east, west, north, and south. These 4 directions each have their own lords. The most special one is the east. There is no grass growing there and the land is so hard that even a sword cannot break it. But right there lived the who had protected them from generation to generation. No one knows what God looks like, but he goes to worship him every year on the 5th day of the first lunar month. When worshipping, animals are not used, but the most precious herbs are used by every household. Even if they are grown by themselves, they can be used as long as they are precious. This is why even though everyone in their village knows how to heal, the medicinal materials at home are still mainly ordinary. There is a bottomless cliff over there, and every time they just need to throw the medicinal materials down. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 513. Chapter 513, Sacrifice 02. Their village lives in this deep mountain, and there are many animals in it. With their own strength, they cannot resist the wild beasts in the mountains. But God can do it. As long as you worship once a year, the village will be safe for the whole year. This rule was passed down in this way. At the current generation of the village chief, he only knows that there is the patron saint of his village. If he leaves the mountains at any time, he only needs to go and report it. There are no mandatory requirements for both parties. After finishing the ceremony, Mei Shui and Hian sighed, what a good God you know. In ancient times, sacrifices were mainly based on live animals and humans. There is no one like them. So this is a good God, and Hians really wanted to check it out. I just don't know if it will cause trouble to the villagers. Mei Shui simply said, have you ever gone down there before? He is so kind and won't hurt anyone, so why bother going down to take a look? The village chief smiled bitterly and shook his head, it's not as good as you think. Ordinary people are not allowed to enter there. Before the day of the sacrifice, no one who breaks in will come out alive. But it's not the god's fault, the village chief thought to himself. It's just that he didn't intend to tell them. If someone breaks into his home, he will beat them out. If they come to steal something, then think about it for a moment, it's all the same. If we go in, will it bring trouble to your village? Hians couldn't help but ask. The village chief shook his head. No, you have to think clearly, I don't know what's going on there, the village chief said worriedly when he saw that they had made up their mind. It's okay. We still have the ability to protect ourselves, but we're just afraid of causing trouble to you. Hians waved his hand. As long as it has no impact on the village, it doesn't matter if he goes to investigate. He looked at Mei Shui as if asking. Mei Shui nodded. I also have this idea. The life in the village is really happy. This time, Grandma brought a pair of mahjong into the village. She stayed for a few days and got to know a lot of people in the village. No, she immediately led people to join the mahjong army. Not to mention the two Xiaopeng brothers, they were taken around by Xiaoyu and her cousins every day. It almost turned the whole village upside down. The 5th day of the first lunar month comes quickly. This is a big event in the village. Every household no longer cares about that little thing, and everyone happily starts to make sacrifices for the sake of peace in the coming year. Mei Shui and Hians had no intention of going down when they were offering sacrifices. They planned to go down to explore after the sacrifice. Mei Shui felt that there was a good chance that this place was a spiritual beast, and only beasts with enlightened intelligence could speak so humanely. Otherwise, it would be strange if the beast did not eat the man. As guests, they also brought a sacrificial object to the village chief. The village chief was very grateful to them after seeing them. Such a good thing, isn't it good to take it yourself? It is not something ordinary people can do if they are willing to take it out. Looking at the 1,000-year-old ginseng in his hand, the village chief felt like hesitating. You are very generous, the village chief said cheerfully. After all, this is a major event in the village, so we have to make some contribution. Only if you are kind to us are we really kind. He opened his mouth with polite words, and Hian's mouth became more and more slippery. No one played mahjong with Grandma He today because everyone was busy. After she found out, she planned to play with her. Of course Mei Shui had no objection and stayed with her grandma the whole time, just because she was afraid that something would happen to her. To go to the east, you have to go through Worm Valley to the end of the east side. Today, not a single insect can be seen in the Bug Valley, and the small bugs that usually appear in groups have disappeared without a trace. Xiao Cheng was full of curiosity. He was very jealous of the medicine village here. Now that those pesky bugs were gone, of course he couldn't let it go. Xiaoyu has been by his side, helping him collect herbs. Anyway, when they come back from the sacrifice, they will bring a batch of herbs from the Worm Valley. This happens every year. There are not only herbs here, but also some poisonous weeds. Xiaopeng is not very skilled in this area. But he also knows some. He immediately ran to his mother and said, "Mom, there are many poisonous herbs here. Can I pick some out?" He wanted to study the poisonous recipe. Meixia glanced around and shook her head. "No, your current ability is not able to control the poisonous weeds here. You can give it a try when your medical skills are stronger." She rejected Xiaopeng. Let alone Xiaopeng, even she respects the poisonous weeds here because she recognizes some of them, and even she may not be able to detoxify them. Looking at the densely growing poisonous herbs all around, I thought that no one in the village would touch them. It can be seen that the medical skills in their village are also top-notch. Xiaoyu said at this time, "Yes, Mei Shui is right. Brother Xiaopeng cannot touch these herbs, otherwise there will be no cure." She heard from her parents that someone in the village had touched them before, but later they all died. Xiaopeng is still a little unwilling to give up. But he was an obedient child, Okay, he responded with some disappointment. After you have mastered your father-in-law's ability to recognize medicine, you can learn medicine from the village chief. You also know that mother's medical skills are not very good, she learned them all from books. Even acupuncture can only be used for 3-point treatments, so she never treats people. At most, she just studies ancient prescriptions by herself. It's not that she doesn't know how to see a doctor, but she doesn't dare to show it to others. She still knows how much she weighs. Well, I listened to my mother. This was Xiaopeng's original plan. Did he know that the village chief's wife is the best in medical skills in the village? In terms of identification and planting, Ji's father and 3 brothers are the best in the village. It took more than 2 hours to walk all the way. Fortunately, the weather is good today, there is no rain or snow. Otherwise those who are older will suffer. Grandma he abandoned Mei Shui long ago and found her good sisters, talking and laughing along the way. Of course, Mei Shui and Hians are not far away from their grandma. More than 2 hours later, we finally arrived at our destination and saw the landlord's burned wood. I thought no one had come in this year. Under the auspices of the village chief, the sacrifice began. The fire was lit. Soon I saw a group of people changing their clothes, and their faces were so painted that they didn't even recognize their mother. 5 in a row, there are 4 rows in total, that is, 20 people. Everyone sat down directly against the cliff, muttering something unknown. The village chief also changed into white clothes at this time, looking a bit like an immortal. He was speaking in Miao dialect that Mei Shui and others could not understand. After reciting it for about 10 minutes, I could see with my inner eyes that the fog under the cliff was slowly spreading up the mountain. Mei Shui and Hians have always been vigilant. Immediately pulled Grandma, Xiao Chang, and the others beside me. And all the people in the village fell to their knees. Everyone had their heads lowered. Tickets are moved, ask for recommended tickets, monthly tickets, and rewards. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 514. Chapter 514, Sacrifice 03. Seeing this, Mei Shui and Hians also pulled everyone down and squatted down to see what was going on. Until the fog covered everyone and their vision became blurry. When he couldn't see clearly even 1 meter away, the village chief's voice rang out. But I still don't know what he was thinking about. Soon the 2 of them heard movement around them, which was the sound of taking things. Everyone in the village was very quiet. Except for the person chanting sutras at the front, no one made a sound. Because of their line of sight, they only saw what the Ji family around them took out. It is a prepared treasure. Mei Shui and Hians also took out their things and put them on the ground. Perhaps within a minute, everything on the ground disappeared. The fog dissipated quickly. This sacrifice is finally over. The village chief slowly turned around and walked back. Pack your things and go back to the village, he immediately ordered. Everyone knows that there is a time limit for the opening of the insect valley. They also have to pick medicinal materials in the valley, so they have to leave here early. Mei Shui and Hian stood up and found that the fog had receded to where it started. It was impossible to see clearly under the cliff anyway. Let's go. Ji's father stood up and said to the He family, if you don't get out, the insects in the valley will come out again. Mei Shui and Hians did not delay and followed the large troops to evacuate. No matter how curious you are, wait until today is over. They must have a look under the cliff. This day is also the most productive day in the village. Basically every household has achieved good results. Mei Shui and Hians took a breath with the village chief and said they planned to go to the bottom of the cliff to take a look. The village chief did not stop them because he knew that he could not stop them. Be careful, if possible, Don't say it has anything to do with us, this is all he can do. We know Hians and Mei Shui were not cold-blooded people, otherwise they wouldn't have waited until the next day to go. After talking to Grandma and Xiao Chang, Mei Shui and Hians left the village. Except for the village chief, everyone only knew that they went into the mountains to play. It's normal. People from the city have never seen mountains. Hians and Mei Shui entered the Worm Valley again. Because of their cultivation, they directly added a spiritual energy shield around themselves as soon as they entered here. Those poisonous creatures are trying to get close, but unfortunately, the aura shield is not that easy to break. It seems like there are a lot of good things here, do you want to look for them? He didn't know medicine, but he had read the illustrated book, and he basically knew some of the things in it. Meixiu, on the other hand, shook her head. There are too many poisonous weeds here, so don't move around. She was really not sure of saving anyone. You are so unsure of yourself. Hians was very blind about her level and felt that Xiaoxiu must be modest. I'm too lazy to talk to you, but walk faster. We won't be able to stay in the village for long. Xiaopeng and the others still have to go to school. Mei Shui had a hunch that things here would be very troublesome. Hian saw that her face was serious, so he no longer had a playful attitude. Okay, let's go. Once they reached the edge of the cliff, the two held hands and jumped directly without saying a word. The weight of the human body directly caused them to slide down instantly. The wind cut like a knife. Well, they didn't feel it, it was just the author's adjective. The whole body is surrounded by spiritual energy, and external objects cannot touch them, but the feeling of falling is still a bit uncomfortable. With the help of spiritual power, they directly stabilized themselves, and the two of them stopped falling, but their cultivation could not last long. Let's find a place first, come little by little. It's all foggy down there, so we can't dive in headlong. Fortunately, the cliff behind them provided them with a temporary rest. In this way, it took them most of a day to reach the depths of the mist, that is, the bottom of the cliff. As soon as my feet landed on the ground, I finally felt at ease. Mei Shui looked up at the sky and found that there was no sky at all. If it weren't for the light here, she wouldn't be able to tell the difference between day and night. Be careful. Hians was a little repelled by this place. For some reason, he always felt that something was wrong here. Well, let's take a rest first. The situation was unknown, and it was difficult for them to enter the space. What if there is someone here? The secret is something you don't want outsiders to know. The two of them sat cross-legged on the ground and began to recover their spiritual energy. Fortunately, they had enough spiritual energy now, otherwise it would have been a troublesome thing. As soon as they recovered, the two began to look around. Go deeper step by step. Slowly, the fog in the air began to dissipate. It wasn't until they came to a drift that they could truly see the scene under the cliff. It's so beautiful. Mei Shui was immediately shocked by the beautiful scenery here. Hians was extremely vigilant here because he discovered that a force had been monitoring them. Fortunately, there is not much malice in his eyes. But he was still not used to being stared at like this. Xiaoxiu, be careful. Hians walked up to Mei Shui and blocked the person behind him. Mei Shui is not stupid, of course she knows what's going on. Have you discovered anything? It is true that the more beautiful something is, the more dangerous it is. Well, be careful. Except for the more beautiful scenery, it is no different from the mountains above. Hians felt that the line of sight was getting more and more wild, getting closer to them little by little. At this time, a roar came from the water pool, and a huge creature jumped directly from the water pool. After seeing clearly, Hians directly pulled Mei Shui and jumped far away. At this time, the creature in the pool lowered its head. Why is it a snake? Mei Shui looked confused after seeing it clearly. Hians shook his head. Look clearly, it's not a snake. Looking at the huge creature not far away from them, Hians was on guard. Mei Shui checked carefully this time. It's really not a snake, It's a bit like the dragon in cultivation species that Xiaobai showed us. Mei Shui also became nervous at this time. You must know that those who can turn into dragons are extraordinary, not only because of their own cultivation, but also their bloodline. These common-sense novices have told her many times to have a more relaxed attitude when she encounters species with nobler bloodlines. As long as it is not an evil beast, you can basically leave safely. Kijiao, Mei Shui can't decide whether it is good or bad. Looking at Hians, he had already accumulated thunder and lightning in his hands. As long as there was a movement over there, he would take action here. Opposite was a snow-white dragon. Well, she felt that everything she encountered was this color. Before Mei Shui could look at it again, the dragon on the opposite side said, "Humans, how did you get down?" "That's right, it couldn't get out. That year. Forget it, just don't mention it." "That's how we came down." After Mei Shui heard a female voice, half of her nervousness immediately disappeared. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 515. Chapter 515, God 01. Xiaolong has some tricks up his sleeve. How could your cultivation be able to break through that formation? You know, if it hadn't been for that formation, it would have left long ago. No man is good. He was the one who deceived me into coming here, and then. There is no formation up there, we didn't encounter it when we came down. Mei Shui replied honestly. How is that possible? The dragon became anxious. As soon as it heard her saying that there was no formation, it straightened up and flew away from the pool. Then, within 5 seconds, there was a bang and the pool was hit by a heavy object. The water splashed everywhere, and even Mei Shui and Hians were not spared, and were directly poured into the water. Coupled with the thunder and lightning accumulated in Hian's hand, Mei Shui truly experienced the feeling of a handful of electricity. As soon as Hians discovered Mei Shui's condition, he immediately withdrew the spell and hugged her directly. "Are you okay?" Mei Shui rolled her eyes at him and said, "How about you give it a try? It's okay." "Is something okay?" Thunder and lightning are the nemesis of all things, and with her small body, Did this man do it on purpose? Don't think about it. How could I hurt you? Hians was not stupid. He knew his wife very well. Seeing the look on her face, I immediately knew what she was thinking. "Humph, then you can shock me again," Mei Shui said angrily. "Isn't that why I had to stop when it didn't come?" "I'm wary of the dragon again," Hian said with an innocent look on his face. The two of them had not waited long before the water in the pool rolled. A hateful voice came out. "How dare you lie to me?" It was the voice of the dragon just now. Hians and Mei Shui were directly shaken away by its sound. Cultivation level is a serious injury, because the dragon's level of cultivation is much higher than theirs, and its sound can directly hurt them. Mei Shui and Hians have a grievance. What did they lie to it? When the sound passed, the two people who fell on the ground spit out a mouthful of blood. Without saying anything, Mei Shui took out the pills she usually made, and the two of them drank them directly. With the recovery from the pills, I finally felt a little more relaxed. Meixiu was very angry. "Why are you so unreasonable, dragon? When did we lie to you?" If she hadn't always remembered Xiaobai's words, she wouldn't have introduced him to fight with him. Of course, she knew that she was no match for it. "I asked you earlier if you had a formation, what did you say?" Xiaolong was also very angry. Its cultivation level had dropped again. If it continues like this, how many years can it live? No, it can't be like this, it has to leave, it has to get out of here. It doesn't want to stay here for hundreds of years. The two of them didn't know what the dragon in front of them was thinking, but they kept hearing the word formation coming from it, which made Mei Shui think something about it. "Were you bounced by the formation just now?" Mei Shui asked. "Such a big movement, and there is no one else here, I am afraid it is the formation, it said. You know, as soon as Jiaolong heard her talk about the formation, he immediately put away his aura, looking at Mei Shui with a look of expectation. Of course, if it wasn't a dragon head, it would look much better. I don't know, but there really was no formation when we came down. Do you know what the formation is here? If you know it, maybe you can crack it. Of course, their strength may not necessarily break them, but there is always hope. Besides, this dragon didn't have any evil aura, so that's why she spoke like this. In the final analysis, Mei Shui's thinking is too simple. Although she has experienced the apocalypse, she is nothing compared to the world of immortality. Where the human heart is the most complicated, it must be the world of immortality. It shouldn't be too normal to kill people and seize treasures. There are still some rules and regulations in the last days, but in the world of immortality, strength is respected. Upon hearing her words, Jiaolong decisively told the reason why he was imprisoned here. Just because when I was practicing Xiao Chang, I had a kind heart and saved a human being, and the two of them have been traveling together since then. They don't know what happened at that time. The world changed drastically, and they had to start hiding and looking for a place to practice. Eventually they were ambushed by a group of humans, and that's where they ended up. The human also built a house in the deep mountains, and then went out to pick up his relatives and friends. So a small village will do. But the world is no longer peaceful. The human being began to make plans for his relatives and friends. The first person to be punished was this newly trained white snake. It can turn into a dragon with his help, because he has gathered all the spiritual energy in this deep mountain together. Transform it into a dragon. I thought it was a good intention, but I didn't expect it. It was finally trapped here and could no longer leave this land, protecting his people from generation to generation. If his cultivation hadn't been declining, he probably wouldn't have understood the reason. Now that he thinks about it, he locked himself here just to preserve his bloodline. It's not that it hasn't thought about killing his people, but as long as it has this idea, it can no longer absorb spiritual energy. This formation trapped him here and became a tool for him to protect his people. Meixue was a little confused. Then why do you only want medicinal materials? Also, you can get the things on the top of the mountain, why can't you live without them? This doesn't make sense. The disappearance of those things they saw with their own eyes cannot be separated from this place. Once he heard this, Jiaolong became angry. I didn't take that thing down, but the formation automatically transferred it. Afraid that they wouldn't believe it, Jiaolong turned his head. You follow me, those medicinal materials have no effect on it at all. Over the years, several caves have been filled. I don't know what the people above are thinking. I'm sick. Fortunately, the villagers didn't know what it was thinking, otherwise they would definitely beat it to death. That thing is so precious. If you take it out casually, it will be enough to cover the expenses of a family for decades. Some expensive people can support their families for several generations. If they hadn't listened to their elders, they wouldn't have taken it out. He Ans and Mei Shui had no choice but to follow it now. There is a deep cave not far from the pool. Looking in from the outside, it is pitch black. I can't see anything, but fortunately it's quite clean here, otherwise Mei Shui wouldn't have planned to follow. Jiaolong may have known what they were thinking. When he saw them following slowly, he waved his tail and a bright light appeared in the cave. Glowing beads on the wall appeared in front of their eyes. Is this the night pearl? Forgive her for being an ignorant person. No, this is called the bright stone, which I collected before, Jiaolong said with a look of disgust. If it weren't for him, it wouldn't have collected these wastes. It just didn't think about it, and it ended up being advantageous to itself. Mei Shui was a little excited and wanted to pick a few pieces off the wall. As if Jiaolong knew her thoughts, he threw a few bright stones out of nowhere. Here, don't drool on me, it's dirty. Ah! This snake really needs to be dealt with. Mei Shui thought to herself after taking it. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 516. Chapter 516, God 02. She was very happy when she saw the light stone in her hand. Why doesn't it shine? But there was no light. This time Jiaolong was really disgusted. You are stupid, this thing needs to be driven by spiritual power. Well, what else could she say? She is just so ignorant. After walking for a long time, it was really a mountainous road with 18 bends. Finally reached the deepest part of the cave entrance. Look, this is what his descendants throw away every year. Do you really think I am a garbage collector? I was very disgusted. Except for the good stuff at the beginning, the later stuff is useless at all. It has strong self-repair ability, these medicinal materials are not used at all, and it is not a magic medicine. When Mei Shui saw the medicinal materials all over the floor, some of them were bad, she felt heartbroken. Why don't you preserve it well? It's all broken, and most of the medicinal effect has disappeared. It's such a waste. Many medicinal materials in medical books can be seen here. Unfortunately, the effect of the medicine has almost disappeared. What's the use? It doesn't taste good. Jiaolong rolled his eyes and said, take it away if you like it. Mei Shui is not stupid, she still knows how to be soft on others. Haha, this is too expensive, I don't dare to ask for it. Seeing her like this, Jiaolong rolled his eyes at her angrily. Human beings are so hypocritical. They clearly want something in their hearts but never say a word of truth. Hians pulled Mei Shui over and said, since Senior gave it to me, I will accept it. Thank you, Senior. Hians immediately agreed on behalf of Xiaoxiu, because he knew that they would not be able to leave here even if they did not accept her. It is better to listen to it, obey it, and accept it. You still have vision. It glanced at Hians, but don't worry, I don't plan to do anything to you, I just want to get out of here. Its only wish is to get out of here. Mei Shui has had a lot of contact with these magical creatures and knows their thoughts. But, it's useless for you to go out now. The aura of the outside world has dissipated and it won't allow you to continue practicing. It's better to stay here. At least there is still aura. The outside world may not be good for them. How is it possible? Sure enough, the dragon was confused. The world changed greatly back then, but the spiritual energy was still there, it was just turbid. It didn't believe it. Really, there's no point in lying to you, Mei Shui said helplessly. I don't care, I want to go out anyway. Since you are leaving, you have to take me away. Just now, your Taoist companion promised to accept my things. If you accept my things, then you must fulfill my wish. It would be a pity that the snake should not be human. The brain is smarter than human beings. But Senior, we don't know how to take you out. Fortunately, she was slow and didn't collect the medicinal materials on the ground. Otherwise, I might feel guilty to death. You sure? This is your business. If you don't take me out, then you can stay with me. Humph, humans are trouble. Mei Shui was speechless. Originally I just wanted to come down and take a look, but unexpectedly I became a laborer. There is no way, the two of them can only help it find a way out. There are indeed formations, but they are useless to humans. They are only used to restrain the dragons. It shows how scheming that person was back then. Hians is better than her in formations, so she can't help him and can't live without him, so she can only practice quietly here. As for the dragon, it followed Hians everywhere, putting all its hopes on him. But in the end, no matter how Hians tried his best, he still couldn't break the formation. Stayed here for 3 days. Fortunately, the villagers knew that they would not be able to get out for a few days after entering the mountain. Everyone also learned about the He family's abilities from the village chief, so they felt relieved and waited with peace of mind. Xiaopeng has been following his father-in-law every day these days, learning his skills. Xiao Cheng was bored and took the children of the same age in the village to practice there every day. Now he has become the child king of the village. On the fourth day, Hian still had no idea. He thought of Dabai. So he asked, "Would you mind signing a contract with my wife? If that's the case, maybe you can give it a try using space." When Jiaolong heard this, he immediately roared, "If you fart, I know you have no good intentions. Did that person leave something for you? Otherwise, how could they ignore this formation?" The more Jiaolong thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Seeing that the two sides were about to fight, Mei Shui stood up at this moment. "Have you heard of the Howling Moon Silver Wolf?" Xiaobai said that it was very famous back then. The dragon that was erupting suddenly stopped and said, "Do you know Lord Xiaoyu?" Of course it knew that it was the contracted beast of a big shot. That year. Even if we don't mention it, at that time it was just the birth of spiritual wisdom. Had it not been for a piece of heavenly material, it would not be what it is now. That means we know each other. Mei Shui smiled. She could not restrict Xiao by now, but the contract between the two was still there. She immediately activated the contract, and a silver wolf symbol appeared on Mei Shui's forehead. Seeing this sign, Jiaolong trembled all over. You are the one back then." He couldn't speak clearly and kept trembling. "I am not the same person back then, I am a woman." Mei Shui was speechless. She knew that Xiaobai's previous master was a man. How could she, a woman, be him in ancient times? Even if you are reincarnated, your gender will not change. Jiaolong breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that she was not the one. "It's okay if it's not, it's okay if it's not," it almost itself just now. "You have also seen that Xiaobai has signed a contract with me. Do you think the contract with me is worthless?" Mei Shui would not admit that she had taken advantage of Xiaobai's power. Jiaolong was a little moved. "Can I see Venerable Xiaoyu?" But he still didn't trust human beings. "That's a pity, you can't see it now, because it went to a place suitable for its survival." Mei Shui shook her head. She hasn't figured out what's going on in Yanchen yet, but she doesn't plan to figure it out, at least not yet. "I know what you are worried about. Don't worry, we will sign a contract of equality." Xiaobai was pitiful, because the contract he signed with himself was a master-servant contract. Big White and Little Red are all equal partners. Happy little white guy. "Are you sure?" Jiaolong was a little moved. "The contract of equality will not impose too many restrictions on both of them. As long as both parties do not betray each other, everything will be fine. Of course, I can swear after cultivating immortality, the oath can be recognized by heaven and earth." Hearing this, Jiaolong was moved, but he still felt uneasy. "Then you swear?" "Well, I'm really paranoid." Mei Shui rolled her eyes, and then swore directly to heaven. After the oath was sworn, the equal contract began. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 517. Chapter 517, God 03. The little golden man in Hian's mind spoke up. "I was lucky enough to encounter a little bug with the blood of a golden dragon." Hearing this, Hian's was speechless. "Are there such big insects?" "Yes, except for the dragons, all crawling things are insects." The little golden man was very arrogant. Hian's didn't want to ask why it didn't speak out before. "It's good to be here now. What's going on with the formation here?" Hian's took advantage of his presence to ask. "The formation here is a trap designed to trap small insects." "It's pitiful," the little golden man said hypocritically. Hian's was speechless. "They seem to have come here earlier than you, right?" "Fart. Did I make a mistake?" It came here with the ancestors in the village. Hians remembered that it said that there was someone here when he woke up. That's because I closed myself off. Well, even if that's the case, can you tell me how to take it away now? Since it knows this formation, it must have a way to get out. No, this is a trap made of that person's blood and his blood. To close this formation, you can only use their blood. There are methods, but unfortunately, the blood is uneven. That person has died a long time ago, but are there any descendants of him in the village? I can't do it, but the descendants can still do it. The little golden man shook his head. No, the whole village does not have his bloodline. Even if there is, it is insignificant and useless. What should we do? The little golden man rolled his eyes and said, don't you want to use space to take it away? This method is feasible. The contract over there was completed, and the dragon's mark was also engraved into Mei Shui's forehead. Because Jialong's cultivation level is one level higher than that of Mei Shui directly benefited from it. No, black clouds are gathering in the sky, and Mei Shui, who is stuck in completing her qi training, is about to break through. Your wife's luck is much better than yours, since she has established the foundation at this time. The little golden man sighed. Hians was speechless. Doesn't that prove that you are useless? Sorry to complain here. What can I do to help her? Hians, who had never experienced this before, was more worried about Xiaoxiu. No, all you can do is watch from the sidelines and understand. The little golden man was full of disgust. Don't think it doesn't know what he was thinking just now, huh? Jiaolong also left Mei Shui directly at this time. Coming to Hian's side, he looked nervously at the master, who was in trance. There are only 3 thunder tribulations for foundation building, which are fast and dangerous. This author does not focus on training articles, so I won't be too descriptive. Thunder quickly accumulated in the sky, and soon the thunder echoed throughout the valley. Even though he was far away, Hians was shocked by the power of God. Jiaolong was also a little scared and unconsciously stepped back no less than 100 meters. There is no one to help when advancing to the thunder tribulation, and Mei Shui can only rely on herself to resist. Most of the day passed. The thunder clouds in the sky slowly dispersed, and Mei Shui's figure appeared in Hian's eyes. Xiaoxiu, looking at the person who fell to the ground, Hian's quickly flew over and picked him up. Looking at her with wounds all over her body, his heart broke. Are you okay? Is something okay? Seeing that her eyes were still open, Hian's heart dropped. Mei Shui wanted to answer him, but she had no strength at all. Seeing his concern, Mei Shui finally said with all her strength, I'll go to the first space. After saying these words, Mei Shui's figure disappeared. Hians knew where she had gone, but Jiaolong didn't. When he saw she was gone, he immediately became anxious. Where is she? She's fine, we can just wait for her outside. As long as you enter the space, everything will be half done. Seeing his relieved look, Jiaolong glared at him angrily. It's best to be fine. It still had to rely on them to take it out. In the space, when Mei Suihua came in, the space automatically threw her into the spiritual spring pool. With the nourishment of spiritual energy, Mei Shui gained some strength and began to stabilize her cultivation. She didn't expect that she just signed a contract with Jiaolong and skipped Hian's foundation building. As Mei Shui's cultivation deepened, the space slowly began to change. It seems that the two sides are complementary. From the initial storage to the overflowing spiritual power now, the change is really huge. With the help of space, Mei Shui recovered much faster. Coupled with the time difference in space, she came out of space in less than half an hour. When I arrived, I saw Hian sitting at the place where he had passed the calamity. As soon as I came out, I fell directly into his arms. You're out, are you feeling better? Feeling the weight in his arms, Hian immediately opened his eyes and asked. I'm fine, very good. Mei Shui looked at his anxious eyes and replied with a smile. It's okay, It's okay. When I saw that lightning striking you, I was so scared that I lost half my life. He was really frightened. You will also experience this in the future, Mei Shui said in confusion. Feeling that it was not good to say this, he immediately changed his words. Don't worry, we can resist the lightning disaster of the Foundation. I was afraid that he would be frightened by me. It was rare to see her comforting himself. Hians was still very happy to see her like this. I was not scared by Lei Ji, I was scared by you. Fortunately, you are okay. The two hugged each other tightly, and at this time, a discordant voice came from behind the two of them. Are you still planning to mate here? Well, this incomprehensible dragon is so straightforward. Mei Shui blushed a little and pushed Hians away. Let go. Unfortunately, the man was too strong. Why are you so blind? If you don't want to see it, you can come back later. Who made it sign a contract with Mei Shui? He is not afraid of it. Humph, I want to go out now that the master has completed his tribulation. It's time for us to leave. It couldn't wait. Speaking of this, Mei Shui took a deep breath and said, okay, it was really time to leave, otherwise it would be difficult for the village to explain. Of course Hians also knew about this, and the two stood up. Can you transform? Everything in the space was prepared by the two of them personally, and they didn't want it to cause damage as soon as it entered. Xiaolong glanced at them, then transformed into a human form and appeared in front of them. The clothes on her body are ancient costumes, and you can tell at a glance that she is elderly. You can transform, why do you keep using your true body? Mei Shui was confused when she saw it transform. Do you really like snake bodies that much? It's great in itself, but the human form is too troublesome, Xiaolong said with a look of disgust. Well, they were speechless. Mei Shui stepped forward and took her hand. Don't resist, this was the last resort anyway. After the three people entered the space, Xiaolong went crazy. Oh my god, you actually have a small world and it is developing so well. After saying that, it turned into its main body again and flew in the space. Mei Shui has a headache. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 518. Chapter 518, Return to Kyoto. Don't destroy things in my space, or you'll never come in again, Mei Shui threatened. Just like discovering a new continent, the dragon is wandering around in space. Meixiu didn't want to pay attention to it, and directly used her master consciousness to seal the area where she lived, fearing that it would be damaged if it came down. Let's go out. It's time to go back. If we don't go back, Grandma will be worried, Mei Shui said to Hians. Well, let's go. After leaving the space, the two of them looted the area around Xiaolong. Especially in the cave where Xiaolong hid the treasure, Mei Shui dug out all the bright stones on the cave wall. Nothing was wasted and taken away. Those spoiled medicinal materials were also collected. It didn't matter that they were no longer effective, at least they had a sample. After the dragon disappeared, the fog in this deep valley slowly began to dissipate. The two of them are still a little confused about this, but these are not important. What is important is that they leave. When they arrived at the starting point, the two of them flew directly towards the cliff. This time, because Mei Shui was promoted, there were not many stops on the way back. The formation that the two of them had been worried about did not stop them, presumably because they did not sense the presence of the dragon. In any case, they finally left. They do not plan to release the dragon at this time, but plan to give it to Xiaobai when they return to Yinshan. Mei Shui trusts Xiaobai the most. It was the afternoon of the fourth day when they returned to the village. The two of them shot 2 wild boars on the mountain and took in with them as well as a few deer. The villagers were very happy to see them coming back with so many things. Hian said nothing and let the villagers divide the food together. With so much meat, of course no one would be polite to them. Back to the village chief's house, Grandma started to scold people when she saw them. You are getting bolder and bolder, and you don't even look at where this place is. You go out for several days. Are you afraid that I will die in a hurry? The person targeted was Hians, and Mei Shui was also criticized a few words by the way. Anyway, it was Hians who was being scolded. She is your wife, so forget it if you don't feel sorry for her. Old lady, I still feel sorry for my grandson's wife. I tell you, if you are looking for death, go alone. Don't drag Xiaoxiu around in the future. See what you can do. Grandma, he couldn't stop scolding her. When Xiao Peng and Xiao Cheng saw this, they ran away without saying a word. If they didn't walk for a while, artillery fire would definitely be directed at them. Xiao Yu, who was pulled away by them, was confused. Brother Xiao Peng, why should we run away? Didn't he miss Aunt Shui and the others? If you don't run, you won't be in a hurry. You don't know how crazy my wife is, Xiao Cheng said, patting his chest with fear on his face. Xiao Peng also nodded, it's okay, you will understand later, but don't worry, my wife will not scold you. At most, she will scold them. This is his little daughter-in-law. He has to tell her some ways of survival at home. Hians was scolded so badly that he finally made up for his mistake and coaxed the old lady back to good health. After the village chief saw that the family had calmed down, he looked anxious and asked, how is it? Knowing what he was asking, the two of them had no intention of telling the village chief about the dragon. The sins committed by his ancestors will be wiped out by death. The two looked at each other and shook their heads. Can't go down. This was something they had discussed when they came back. Sure enough, the village chief believed what they said, because in his heart, the who protected them was much stronger than humans. It is normal that it was not detected. Then they stopped talking about it. The village chief knew that they had come back from hunting game, so he asked about what they had done in the mountains these days. As we were chatting, we started talking about leaving. The new year will be over soon, and they have to go back to Kyoto and pay New Year greetings to some old men, so they have to go back early. The village chief also understood that he did not force the villagers to stay this time because he knew that leaving was not necessarily a bad thing. But staying here will definitely be bad for the younger generations. This old guy is immobile. He just happens to be practicing hard here, and maybe he can break through. Because the village was busy during the new year, he had not taken the food they gave him. Of course, they have no problem with the village chief's decision. The villagers can leave with them and help them make arrangements. These people all have their own abilities and are not afraid of not being able to make a living in Kyoto. It can also help yourself, so why not do it? After resting in the village that night, the village chief told the villagers about leaving the village the next day. More than half of the people left this time. Those who stayed were those who were reluctant to leave home. After making arrangements for leaving the village, Hians, Mei Shui and others left the village with their people the next day. This time everyone in the Ji family left together, including the three brothers of the Ji family. Because they were members of her own family, Mei Shui made simpler arrangements for them and directly arranged for them to go to Bema village. Of course, they have no problem with other people wanting to settle in Bema village. It will be up to them then. After leaving the village, they did not go to Uncle Huang. They called him and asked him if they had received the wine. Then he told him that they were going back to Kyoto. Of course, I also said hello to the local government and talked about the relocation of the village. Those in the village are all people who are unwilling to leave the village, so there is nothing needed for migration. And everyone else in the village is going to Kyoto with them, and they have to get their ID cards and other things. Just go to Sun Ming's friends directly, ask him to help handle it, and then send it to them. It is impossible to have so many people waiting here. It took 3 days to return to Kyoto, and Hians became busy as soon as he returned. Let's first make arrangements with the people who came from the village, and then find Qianziang and Uncle Zhao. He can feed so many people by himself, but he must not forget that they cannot. They are all our own people. Ji's family first arranged it in their own home, which has a large yard and can accommodate the three of them. Mei Shui and Grandma began to prepare to pay New Year greetings to several old men. The Chinese New Year is over in just 2 days, so I have to pay a visit. When they learned that the He family was back, the old men and Wen were very happy. After receiving the letter, they rushed to the He family directly. Watching them come to the door, Nana's heart aches. "You don't want to eat at home, do you?" This was the first thing she said. As soon as this was said, everyone laughed. "No, I miss all the food you cooked." "That's not possible. We just came back. We are very tired. We don't want to cook. If we want to eat, let's go to Intercontinental." Grandma he didn't intend to spoil them. So after everyone had a brief conversation at home, they set off to the hotel. After 2 or 3 days of eating and drinking, the New Year is finally gone. The Ji family also gained a new understanding of the He family. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 519. Chapter 519, He Xiu and Hua 01. Because Xiaoyu was young, Mei Shui arranged for her to go directly to Mr. Wu's place, and then sent her to school after she got used to it. She believes that Xiaoyu is a smart child and will not be unable to keep up with the progress. The old man was most happy about this, as he now had students to teach. Xiao Peng and Xiao Cheng are both unhappy. So the two of them started skipping grades directly. Not only that, I originally wanted to bring little Fufu along, but unfortunately, the little girl was useless and couldn't keep up with the progress. For this reason, Wang Xiaoao said that his daughter was too stupid. After the old lady heard what she said, she scolded the person away. She also said that Xiao Fufu would be a member of her family from now on, and it was not anyone else's turn to scold her. Well, as a father, he can't even scold his own daughter. Of course, he was still very happy. This year, everyone has had a fulfilling life. Since Xiao has not come back to take over, Hian still has to busy with the work at hand. Hian finally regained his composure this time. The things that boss number 3 was worried about have not made progress, but he still did not give up. Not only that, he also ordered 3 meals a day in the herbal medicine shop. Mei Shui was very happy about this. She would be a fool if she didn't earn money. She has 3 sons. Does it cost nothing to marry a wife? The 3 brothers of the Ji family settled down in Bama village. Some of the remaining people sold their medicinal materials and bought houses in Kyoto to settle down. Some of them also stayed with them in Bama village. Anyway, everyone is very adaptable to life in Kyoto. Of course, it is also because they have the ability to make a living. The words are divided into 2 parts. Xiao and Hua were embarrassed for several days because of what happened last time. In the end, after Hua took the initiative to break the embarrassment between them, they returned to normal life. But both of them knew that the relationship between them had changed. At school, Hua, because she was the same age as Xiao, they just studied different majors. But the two of them can be regarded as half celebrities in the school. Why do you say half? He Xiu is well known in school for his grades and appearance, but he has a cold temperament and is very aloof to everyone. The kind that is difficult to get close to. So everyone knows him, but few people associate with him. Even if there is anyone who can talk to him, it is the kind of person who has a similar temperament to him. As time went by, everyone stopped paying much attention to him. Tweety, because of her upbringing from Huamu and her own relationship, is also somewhat famous in school. Of course, he is much better than her, so he is semi-famous. But everyone in the school knows that the two have a good relationship, because from time to time they will appear together in the library or cafeteria. After the last incident, I didn't take the initiative to go to He Xiu for dinner for several days. There was more or less concern in her heart. No, She was debating whether to go find him or not. Today is Wednesday, the day they go to the library together, and she is wondering whether to go there and wait for him. There are many people from the Long Kingdom in this school. The fellow villagers burst into tears when they saw the fellow villagers. Huarao made a good friend here. Is her classmate, whose surname is Zheng. He is a head taller than a flower, and he is very loyal. He is also considered a celebrity in the school. She is famous for her fierceness and loyalty, and she is considered a big sister in the school. Maybe it has something to do with her original family. She was also born in Xiang, and several generations of her family have been involved in the underworld. Because of her family background, she has a very hot temper and is a very aggressive person. She and Hua also got to know each other through hardships. At that time, Hua was an Oriental, and her facial features were very attractive in this country school. No, I was surrounded by several local students. He said that he confessed to her and hoped that she would be his girlfriend, but their true thoughts should not be too obvious. Hua is not stupid. He and his brother have been trained by his father since he was a child. Have a clear understanding of the world. She rejected them immediately, and just like that, she had a conflict with a few people surrounding her, and she happened to be met by Zhang Xiang, who was passing by. The two got to know each other like this, and they bumped into each other several times later, because they rescued her, and Hua gradually became familiar with her. I just didn't expect that she was actually in the same class as me, but she had rarely appeared in the class since the beginning of the school year. Zhang Xiang is 1 year older than Hua. She is still in her freshman year because her grades are so bad that the school automatically lets her repeat the grade. That's why she appears in this freshman class. What are you thinking about? What's wrong with you these days? As a good friend, of course she noticed something was wrong with Hua. Looking at her friend, Hua thought about whether she should tell her something about herself, mainly because she didn't have anyone around her to talk to her about. Besides, she really didn't know how to talk to He Shia when she invited him to see what he was doing last time. It's okay, I don't have it, Hua Zhui said firmly. Not yet. Zhang Xiang turned around and sat on the seat in front of Hua. Do you think I believe it or not? She was not blind. And, where is your little lover? Why haven't I seen you together these days? Those in economics are all top academics, and they are in the design department. There are more scumbags out there. Including herself, of course. What a little lover, Xiang, please don't talk nonsense. As soon as he heard the word little lover, his face immediately turned red. Especially when she was thinking about it. Look, your face is red. You have the nerve to say you don't have feelings for me. Oh, if you don't make a move, I'm afraid. She has heard a lot of news in the past 2 days. Just this silly girl, just staying in the classroom and not going anywhere. What? What's wrong with him? Sure enough, Hua became excited when she heard about him. What are you afraid of? Is there someone else around him? Hey, I'm not mean to others, so why are you nervous? Zhang Xiang's bad taste should not be too strong. The news she knew was that someone confessed to him again, but unfortunately, he was rejected. The excuse for rejecting him was that he had a fiancée. Looking at the nervous friend in front of him, Zhang Xiang wondered if the fiancée could be her. Interesting. Oh, why are you so bad? Tell me what happened to him. Hua was really anxious now. What else can happen? It's just that someone confessed to him again. Zhang Xiang curled her lips, but don't worry, he refused. The evil-minded Zhang Xiang looked at her with pity. I heard that he has a fiancée. Do you know about this? Hua was stupid. She didn't know about this. She had never heard him mention it. No, no. Hua was dumbfounded. She was really panicked when she heard the news. Why does he have a fiancée? She had never heard Uncle Shi talk about this. That means that person is not you anymore. It seems that your little lover is really not yours. Zhang Xiang felt a little embarrassed when she saw her expression. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 520. Chapter 520, He Xiu and Hua 02. No, it's not me. Hua was confused. Maybe he said it deliberately to reject others. Don't think about it. Zhang Xiang regretted talking about it. No, he rarely panics. If this is what he said, then he must have. She felt very sad now. Zhang Xiang opened her mouth. She had always known that Hua might like that He Xiu, but she never expected. The situation will be like this. Don't think too much. If you want to know, just ask him yourself. Her temperament is not the kind of person to be coy. After saying that, he stretched out a hand to pull her. Let's go, I'll take you there. Hua has such an arrogant temperament. How could she ask, no, I won't go, please let me go. Hua struggled to break away from Zhang Xiang's hand, and Hua looked at her. I don't want to ask, I know him, I'll be sure if he says yes. Have. After saying that, Hua ran away crying. Looking at her running out, Zhang Xiang felt relieved and followed her out directly. Where are you going? Zhang Xiang looked at the familiar road and asked worriedly. I'm going home, I'm moving. That's right, Hua is such an impulsive girl. Perhaps she has been overly pampered by her family since she was a child and cannot bear any grievance. Once the grievance arises, she will simply stay away. Don't, why are you more impulsive than me? Don't run away. Listen to me. Zhang Xiang was afraid that there would be a gap between them because of her talkativeness. No matter what, at least ask. She has met He Xiu a few times. For a person like him, he would never tell lies until they are truthful, but he is not the kind of person who wants to play. One's eyes cannot deceive others. Also, his protection of flowers is not at all what they said. What kind of relationship is this? It's a lie. She knew very well how many relatives there were in the Hua family. The aunt who married back to China has a surname of in-laws. What is the relationship with He Xiu? It wasn't that she checked her friends, but that she wanted to protect herself. Let's calm down first, okay? Zhang Xiang was much stronger than her, and she pulled the person to a stop with one pull. Come on, let's go get something to drink first. She had a big head. This kind of comforting and persuading people is really not what people do, if she is good at fighting. Hua was very dazed now. After being pulled to a stop by Zhang Xiang, she was taken away directly. On the other hand, He Xiu knew that she would be embarrassed in the past few days, and saw that his face was red. He was not stupid, and knew that she might have remembered the stupid things she had done. Physiology class was not in vain, she was just drunk at that time. He has been standing here waiting for her in front of the library, hoping that she will come. We have been waiting for more than 2 hours, and the sun has begun to set, but she still hasn't seen anyone. Xiao took a deep breath and slowly exhaled it. Let me see how long you can hide. He was holding his breath and felt very uncomfortable. He Xiu took his things and left the school directly. On the other side, Hua was dragged by Zhang Xiang to a Qing bar, where most of the people were students from the school. When Zhang Xiang came over, everyone she knew greeted her. Seeing her bring a beauty with her, everyone's mouths were filled with smiles. Zhang Xiang knew that now was not the time to joke, so he sent the person away directly. I found a quiet place and sat down with flowers. Ordered 2 glasses of wine. Hua didn't want to talk and couldn't listen to Zhang Xiang's advice. Anyway, she felt extremely uncomfortable, so when she saw the wine on the table, she drank it without saying a word. The more I drank, and I gradually became drunk. Why? Why didn't he tell me? How can he have a fiancé? I don't believe it, I don't believe it. Talk to yourself while drinking. Zheng Xiang really doesn't know how to persuade others, so he can only drink with her. Finally, Hua drunkenly fell on the sofa. Zheng Xiang cried and helped the person up. "You are such a heavy woman." She put all the weight on herself. "Where are you going?" "I originally wanted to take her to get a room, but I knew she would be angry tomorrow. Because she is very misophobic." "Go home." "I want to go home." Hua was still thinking about going back even if she was drunk. Xiu has been waiting at home since he came back from school. Originally thought he would be able to see people when he came back, but he didn't expect. The silence in the house made him very unaccustomed. After turning on all the lights, he went into the kitchen, intending to cook a good meal and talk to her. "Some things, as my wife said, it's better to start early. It doesn't necessarily belong to you if it's too late. I just didn't expect that she would hide from him so well, as if he was the one who did something wrong." Looking at his watch, the time came to 10 o'clock at night. Xiu glanced at the door, but there was no movement at all. He was a little anxious, so he picked up the phone and dialed Hua's number directly. If Hua had been more careful and read the notes on Xiu's phone to her, then this thing wouldn't have happened today. 3 large characters were displayed on the screen of the mobile phone: "Fiancé." No one answered the first call, so Xiu called again. "I don't know how many calls I made until the call was answered." "Where are you?" Xiu said with a hint of sternness and worry in his tone. Perhaps it is the habit he has developed in his usual speaking, which makes people who don't know him only hear harshness. The person who answered the phone was of course not Hua, but Zheng Xiang. She immediately became unhappy when she heard this question. "We're downstairs, we'll be up soon." After that, she hung up the phone. She will not interfere in the affairs of the person concerned, but as long as Hua asks her for help, then she can still deal with Xiu. He knew who this voice was. It was a new friend she made after coming here. Xiu didn't say anything, just picked up the key and went out. When he got downstairs, he saw Hua crying there. If there is anyone familiar here, they will know when they see Xiao like this, that he is on the verge of explosion. As long as he has this kind of cold air, Xiao Peng and Xiao Cheng behave like 3-year-old babies. "What's going on?" Xiu walked forward quickly and snatched the person directly from Zheng Xiang's hand and held him in his arms. "Drinking? Where did you take her?" If the look in his eyes could kill, Zheng Xiang would be killed by Xiao at this moment. Zheng Xiang was also startled when she saw the look in his eyes, but "You have the nerve to ask. If it weren't for you she would be like this." Zheng Xiang wanted to step forward and her back. "It's a pity that she can't be Xiao's opponent." "Me?" Xiao was confused. "What's wrong with me?" He had been waiting for her to get better these days, so he rarely appeared around her, for fear of making her more embarrassed. "Did someone confess to you today?" Zheng Xiang has an upright temperament, the kind of person who talks about everything he says. Seeing me here, of course she had to ask her friend for clarification. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 521. Chapter 521, Xiu and Hua 03. "Did you tell others that you have a fiancé?" Zheng Xiang asked with a smile. Hearing what she said, Xiu remembered that such a thing had happened, so he nodded. "You nodded?" Zheng Xiang was shocked. "So, do you really have a fiancé?" Zheng Xiang was frightened. Xiao glanced at her. As long as he wasn't stupid, he would know what was happening in front of him. So, she went to drink. For some reason, he felt that she was getting cuter. What if, seeing him like this, Zheng Xiang just thought he admitted that he had a fiancé? Let go. He immediately stepped forward to her back. Xiao hugged Hua and hid directly away from Zheng Xiang. "What are you doing? Want to steal someone from him? Since you already have a fiancé, it's not appropriate to hold her." Zheng Xiang didn't know why, but she always felt weak in front of him. The eldest sister's aura seemed to be nothing in front of him. Hishio was not angry when he heard her words, but smiled. Did she drink because of her fiancé? That's it, haha, what a fool. After saying that, he hugged the person directly. Seeing him like this, Zhang Xiang quit. No matter what you think, I will never be with you again. You also know how much this silly girl likes you. Since you have a fiancé, please let her go. Zhang Xiang was anxious. Seeing her being so anxious about the flowers, Hishio smiled at Zhang Xiang in a rare good mood. You are overthinking. My fiancé has always been her. Since the first time we met when we were children. From the first time my wife told me about it. Zhang Xiang was confused. So, you two have an engagement, and this girl doesn't know about it. Zhang Xiang felt that it was even more ridiculous than TV. What if, is he the casual kind of person? If he didn't want to be with her for the rest of his life, would he live with her and let her enter his territory? Even Xiao Fufu couldn't stay close to him, let alone her other woman. Ignoring the stunned Zhang Xiang, Hishio directly carried him upstairs. Zhang Xiang felt like she was crazy. These two people were really. But her friend can have a good outcome, so she is still very happy for her, happy for her, so let's have a party tonight. Zhang Xiang can take good care of herself, and Hishio trusts her very much. So there is no need to give anything as a gift. After returning home with the restless person in her arms, Xiao helped her wash her face. At this time, Hua became more awake, because the towel Hishio used to wash her face was with cold water. He had wanted to talk to her, so it was time for her to wake up. Looking at the person squatting in front of her, Hua couldn't help but shed tears. Xiao wiped her again and again, but she couldn't wipe it clean no matter what. Can you stop crying? He looked heartbroken. Hishio, why did you lie to me? Hua shouted and asked. While crying, he said, why didn't you tell me that you have a fiancé? Why do you want to live with me again? Why are you so nice to me? Xiao is angry and funny. Stop crying. He didn't want to see her cry, so he hugged her. If you cry anymore, you'll run out of water. Hua was stunned when he hugged her. After hearing his words, she immediately started to resist fiercely. Let me go, he pushed and hit me with both hands. Don't be excited, don't be excited, why don't you ask me if you have something? What are you thinking about? Seeing her so excited, Xiao was still very happy. At least he knows that she has herself in her heart. Hold her tightly and let her cry in his arms. It wasn't until she slowly calmed down that Xiao let her go. Can we talk about it now? He said, looking at her eyes that were swollen from crying. Hua's face was red with embarrassment, but she sobered up and calmed down. Do you really have a fiancé? This is what Hua is most troubled about. Xiao shook his head. I think so, but she hasn't promised me yet. Hearing his words, Hua felt that her heart ached. Then, who is she? She said while holding back tears. Xiao knew she couldn't go on like this, otherwise she would hide in her turtle shell after a while. We've been living together for more than half a year, don't you know? He sat next to her, and the sofa fell down more than half. Hua was still confused. Who? She really didn't know, and there was no other girl from her around him. Seeing her confused look, Xiao Yu became happy and said, You. He looked straight at her. I. Hua looked surprised. How could it be possible? Pointing her hands at herself, she looked in disbelief. How is it possible? When did we get engaged? She had never heard her family mention it. Fool. Xiao touched the top of her hair lightly. From the first time you came to our house with Nian Chen. Hua was even more confused. Why didn't I know? She was only 13 years old at that time, right? Because you are the daughter-in-law my wife has arranged for me, only our family knows about it. Hishio directly told her about his wife's affairs. After hearing what he said, Hua couldn't laugh or cry. So, Your fiancé is me. She stopped crying at this time, and felt so sweet in her heart. Of course, who else could it be? He gently touched her hair. Fool. Huh, who told you not to tell me? How could I know about your family? I felt happy. Now I know. My fiancé Xiao suddenly approached her. Should you also give me a title? Huana was shy, but she still expressed her feelings. He kissed him gently on the cheek and said with a smile, now, you are mine too, just stamp it. Is this the end? Xiao was very dissatisfied. He pulled her over and kissed her hard, mouth to mouth. It wasn't until a minute later that he let go. This is the seal. He was a little out of breath when he let go. Rogue Hua said shyly and excitedly. Haha, this is a rogue. I have something even more rogue. Do you want to try it? Xiao teased. Humph, I'll ignore you. Well, her mood changed 360 degrees. At this time, she also smelled the smell of alcohol on her body. Standed up directly from the sofa. Unfortunately, she overestimated herself. No, it fell on Xiao again. Haha, since you threw yourself into your arms, I won't be polite. He picked her up and walked into her room. Of course, he wouldn't do anything to her, because the smell of alcohol on her body made him dislike it. So I took her back to the room to take a shower. It wasn't until Hua was pushed into the bathroom that she realized what she was looking forward to. Ah, a shouting voice came from the bathroom. Xiao also laughed and left. When he left, he didn't forget to shout to the inside, hurry up and remember to come out to eat. He had to heat up the dishes. End of this chapter.